Hello.
When my mom asked me to spend a few weeks with Aunt Rachel, I didn't think much of it. She said Rachel could use some company. Ever since her divorce finalized last spring, she'd been living alone in a quiet neighborhood 2 hours from where I went to school. I hadn't seen her in a while, not since I was 16 and still more focused on video games than real conversations. But now I was 20, and apparently I was old enough to be sent off as emotional support. "It's just a visit," Mom said on the phone. "She doesn't need much, just help around the house, someone to talk to. She was always good to you." She was right. Aunt Rachel had been the kind of adult who listened, not just nodded, but really listened. She never spoke down to me, never treated me like a kid. She'd always had a calm voice, an easy laugh, and this quiet strength that made you feel safe even when things were messy. So I packed a bag, tossed it in the back of my car, and drove up on a Monday afternoon. Her place was smaller than I remembered. A single-story house tucked between two tall maple trees, with wide front windows and a porch swing that creaked gently in the breeze. The lawn was perfectly trimmed, the garden beds neat. Everything about it said, "I keep myself together, even when I don't feel like it." She opened the door before I could knock. "Ryan," she said, her smile blooming instantly. "Hey, Aunt Rachel." She pulled me into a hug. It was warm and familiar and just a little too long, the kind of hug you give when you're holding something in. "You look good," she said, stepping back. "Older, taller. You look the same," I said, and she laughed. That's a kind lie. But it wasn't. She did look the same or close to it. Late 30s, maybe 40 now, but graceful. Her dark blonde hair was shorter than I remembered, just brushing her shoulders, and she wore a fitted navy tank top and loose joggers, barefoot on the cool tile floor. Her face was a little more tired around the eyes, maybe, but still soft. Still her. She led me inside. The house smelled like lemon and eucalyptus, clean and calm. A candle flickered on the kitchen counter, and a soft jazz playlist murmured in the background. Everything felt intentional, like silence didn't scare her, but she didn't want to be alone with it for too long either. "I made the guest room up for you," she said, gesturing down the hall. "Towels are folded on the dresser. Bathrooms across the way. Feel free to use anything. Mi casa and all that." "Thanks," I said, setting down my duffel bag. "And thanks for letting me stay." She waved it off. "Are you kidding? I've been eating dinner alone for weeks. You're saving me from talking to my cat." "You have a cat?" She smiled. "No, that's how bad it's gotten." I laughed, and she joined me. It was easy, surprisingly so. That first evening was relaxed. We made a simple dinner together, grilled chicken, pasta, a salad she swore she threw together in 5 minutes. She poured 2 glasses of wine and didn't flinch when I accepted mine without hesitation. No awkward "you're not 21 yet" jokes. No raised eyebrows. We ate at the small kitchen table and talked about school, my classes, what it was like living off campus. I asked about her work. She did freelance editing from home now, and how she liked the quiet. She gave a small shrug. "It's fine," she said. "Some days better than others." I didn't push. I figured she'd talk if she wanted to. After dinner, we watched a movie in the living room, some old comedy she liked, one I'd never heard of. She curled up on one end of the couch, her legs tucked under her, and I lounged on the other. There were blankets, soft pillows, dim lighting. It felt like comfort had been carefully built into every corner of this house. When the movie ended, she stood and stretched, arms over her head, tank top rising slightly to reveal just a sliver of skin at her waist. "I'm gonna shower," she said. Make yourself at home. Thanks. I might head to bed soon too. She nodded and disappeared down the hall. I sat there for a minute longer, staring at the dark screen, listening to the water start behind the bathroom door. Then I got up, turned off the lights, and retreated to the guest room. It was cozy, clean sheets, soft mattress, a nightstand with a little reading lamp, and a book I'd probably never open. I lay there for a while, scrolling through my phone, not really reading anything, just listening to the faint sounds of the house settling, the distant rush of water behind the wall, the occasional creak of wood. Everything felt too quiet, not uncomfortable, but too still for my racing thoughts. Then came the knock. 3 soft taps on the door. I looked up. It was nearly midnight. I swung my legs out of bed and padded over, barefoot on the hardwood. When I opened the door, she was standing there. Aunt Rachel, hair damp, skin flushed from the heat of the shower. She wore a towel, a thick, dark gray one, wrapped tightly around her chest and tucked in at the top. It clung to her curves, stopped just above her knees. Her arms were bare, legs bare, droplets still tracing down one shin. Her expression was calm, not embarrassed, not playful, just honest. "I need a favor," she said softly. I blinked. "Yeah, of course. What is it?" She hesitated. Then she glanced down the hallway, like checking for something, though we both knew no one else was home. "I'll tell you in the kitchen," she said. Then she turned, walking barefoot toward the dim glow at the end of the hall, her towel swaying slightly with each step. I stood there for a second, heart thudding, not from what I saw, but from what I didn't understand yet. Then I followed, not knowing what the favor was, not knowing how much that moment, that knock, would change everything. She moved through the hallway without a sound, like she'd done it 100 times. I followed, a few steps behind, still unsure whether this was something simple or something bigger, and whether I was overthinking it. The kitchen light was soft, just the little lamp by the sink casting a warm, golden glow across the tile and countertops. The rest of the house stayed dark, quiet, wrapped in the kind of silence that makes everything feel a little more meaningful. Rachel reached for a glass in the cabinet, her towel never slipping, never shifting. She moved with ease, like her body didn't carry the tension mine did. She filled the glass with water, took a slow sip, and then leaned against the counter, holding it with both hands. I waited. She didn't speak at first, just watched the water shift in the glass, the condensation slowly trailing down the sides. "I couldn't sleep," she said finally. "I haven't been sleeping well lately." I nodded, not sure what to say. "Is it something on your mind?" She glanced at me, her eyes sharper in the low light. "Isn't it always?" I gave a small smile. "Yeah, fair." She paused. "I didn't mean to wake you. I just didn't want to sit in bed alone again. I thought maybe you were still up." "I was," I said. "Couldn't sleep either." We stood there for a while in silence, not awkward, not strained, just quiet. Then she looked up again, and this time her voice changed. "Ryan, do you ever feel like you're supposed to be fine because everyone expects you to be?" That caught me off guard. "I think, yeah, more than I admit." She nodded slowly. "I've been telling everyone I'm fine since the day he left, that I'm doing great, free, strong, empowered." Her voice dipped in irony. "But the truth is, I don't know who I'm supposed to be now. Not the wife, not the fixer, not the caretaker, just me." I leaned against the other side of the counter. "That's not nothing. It feels like nothing." Her lips pressed together. Some nights I sit in the dark and just listen to the silence and try to pretend I like it, that I chose it. And do you? She shook her head, eyes wet but not crying. No, I didn't choose this. I didn't choose to be alone in this house, watching everything I used to care about slowly turn into something I can't recognize. I didn't choose for him to fall out of love with me while I was still trying. The way she said it so plainly hit something in me. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. Instead, I stepped a little closer. Not much, just enough to let her know I wasn't going anywhere. She noticed. Her eyes flicked to mine, and she gave a small, tired laugh. You must think this is a lot. No, I said. I think this is what people are supposed to do. Be there for each other, especially the people who never ask for help. She looked down at her glass again, then set it on the counter behind her. I don't know why I came to your room, she said. I think I just needed to feel that someone was awake too, that I wasn't the only one in this house still thinking. You're not. She leaned back slightly, her hands gripping the counter behind her. The towel stayed perfectly in place, but there was something incredibly vulnerable about her posture, about being barefoot, still damp from the shower, talking like this in the dark with no armor. She took a deep breath, exhaled slowly. When you were a kid, she said, you used to follow me around the house asking a million questions. I smiled. Yeah, I was annoying like that. No, she said, meeting my eyes. You were curious. You noticed things. Even back then, you could tell when something wasn't right. I never forgot that. Her voice grew quieter. Tonight, I didn't want to be alone with my thoughts again. I didn't expect anything. I just needed to be in a room with someone who wouldn't try to fix me or give me advice or pretend like I'm still doing great. You don't have to be anything right now, I said. You don't have to explain. Her eyes stayed on mine a moment longer. Then she nodded and looked down. I reached for her hand without thinking, gently, like I was checking if it was okay. She didn't pull away. Her fingers closed around mine, warm and a little shaky. And in that moment, we weren't aunt and nephew. We weren't roles or family or obligations. We were just two people sitting in the quiet, clinging to the only thing that felt real. Connection. After a few moments, she spoke again. Thank you for not making this weird. It's not weird, I said. It's honest. She nodded again. Would you mind sitting with me for a while? Not at all. We moved to the couch in the living room. She sat at one end, curling up beneath a throw blanket, and I took the other. No movie, no music, just the sound of the house and the weight of two people finally letting down their guard. She spoke a little more, about the things she never said during the divorce, about the guilt, the shame, the relief she didn't want to admit. I listened. Eventually, she leaned her head back and closed her eyes. Her breathing evened out. Not quite sleep, but peace. I sat there a long time, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest under the blanket. The towel had slipped beneath the covers, revealing a bit more of her shoulder than before. But it wasn't that I noticed her skin. It was that, for the first time, I saw how raw she really was, how strong she was for letting me see it. When she opened her eyes again, the clock showed 1:42 a.m. I should let you sleep, she whispered. I'm okay here. She gave a faint smile. You're a good man, Ryan. I felt something stir in my chest. A warmth that wasn't pride. Something heavier, deeper. She stood, still wrapped in the blanket now, and glanced toward the hallway. I'm glad you're here, she said. Me too. Then she turned and walked back to her room, and I sat there long after she left, not sure what had just shifted, only knowing that it had. The next morning felt different, not because anything specific had happened, but because something unspoken now hung in the air between us, like a shared secret we both agreed not to name. I woke up late, later than usual, and wandered into the kitchen. The smell of coffee hit me before I even turned the corner, rich and familiar. Rachel stood at the stove, dressed in a long t-shirt and pajama pants, her hair pulled into a low, messy bun. Casual, comfortable, like nothing was out of the ordinary. "Morning," she said, glancing over her shoulder with a soft smile. "Morning," I replied, trying to keep my tone even. She poured me a cup without asking and slid it toward me across the counter. I sipped. "Thanks." She nodded and went back to flipping something in a skillet. Eggs or pancakes, I didn't look. I was too focused on her movements, the calm way she moved through her space, the way the morning sunlight made her look younger, almost lighter, like something had eased inside her. We ate breakfast together in near silence, but it wasn't awkward. It was easy, like neither of us needed to fill the space with words to pretend nothing had happened, because something had, even if it was just honesty. After breakfast, Rachel mentioned the porch light had gone out and asked if I could help her fix it. I said sure, more than happy to have something to do with my hands, something simple and mechanical. We spent the next few hours handling little repairs around the house. The porch light, a loose cabinet hinge, a wobbly chair leg. She stayed close, handing me tools, holding flashlights, offering iced tea. Sometimes we joked. Sometimes we were just quiet. But every now and then, I caught her looking at me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. Her gaze wasn't maternal. It wasn't familial. It was curious, praising, careful. And I realized I was doing the same. That night, the sky turned a deep navy blue just after dinner. The air was warm, still, the kind of summer evening where the world feels softer. Rachel poured herself a glass of wine. She offered me one too, and I accepted. We sat outside on the back porch, listening to the cicadas. She wore a loose sweater over her tank top, her legs curled beneath her on the lounge chair. The conversation drifted to childhood memories. She asked if I remembered the beach trips when I was little. I did. I told her how I used to think she was the coolest adult in the world. Not because she let me eat candy, but because she treated me like a real person. That made her laugh. "I always liked you more than your dad," she said, teasing. "I get that a lot." The laughter faded, and silence crept back in, this time heavier, thicker. She looked at me for a moment. "Ryan," she said softly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "When you look at me now, who do you see?" The question landed like a stone in a pond, rippling through every corner of me. I didn't answer right away. Couldn't. She turned her eyes away, almost like she regretted asking. But I didn't let the moment pass. "I see someone strong," I said. "Someone who's been through more than she admits, and still shows up, still takes care of everyone else, even when she's hurting." She met my gaze again but didn't speak. "And lately," I added, my voice lower now, "I've been seeing more, things I probably shouldn't admit, but I can't help it." Her eyes didn't flinch. They just searched mine. Then she whispered, "Say it." I hesitated, but I did. "I don't look at you like a nephew looks at an aunt anymore." The words hung in the air. She breathed in slowly, then set her wine glass down on the wooden arm of the chair. I know, she said. I've seen it in your eyes. There was no judgment in her voice. No shock. Just a quiet kind of truth. Is that why you came to my room that night? I asked. She looked down. Partly. She didn't explain further, and I didn't push. Instead, I moved to sit beside her, not too close, but not far either. We stayed like that for a long time. The porch light we'd fixed earlier cast a soft glow over us, the sound of insects filling the background. Then she turned slightly toward me. Come inside when you're ready, she said, rising slowly. As she passed, her hand brushed lightly over my shoulder, just enough to leave something burning beneath the skin. I sat alone for maybe 10 more minutes, heart pounding in my chest. Then I stood and followed her inside. The house was dark except for a single lamp in the hallway. Her bedroom door was slightly open. When I reached it, she was already lying on the bed. Not under the covers, but across them, wearing that same dark green robe from earlier in the week. Only now it was tied loosely, proper, closed, but undeniably present. She looked at me with that same confident, playful gaze. The one that didn't beg or tease, it invited. Are you okay? She asked. Yeah, I said, stepping in and closing the door gently behind me. I am now. The rest of the night didn't need words. Just presence. Just closeness. Just the quiet unfolding of something long suppressed. Not reckless or hurried, but careful. Slow. Like we both needed to feel every moment so we'd remember it exactly as it was. When we finally slept, it was side by side. And in the stillness that followed, I realized this wasn't confusion or fantasy. It was connection, fragile, strange, imperfect, but real. Sunlight filtered through the curtains in soft beams, casting a golden glow across the room. For a few seconds, I didn't move. I just watched the way it lit up the space. The quiet, the stillness, the warmth. Then I became aware of the weight beside me. Rachel. She was still asleep, curled toward me, one hand resting lightly against my chest. Her hair was messy, strands falling across her face, and her breathing was slow, steady, peaceful. It was the kind of morning you don't rush. I stayed like that for a while, unsure if I should move, unsure of what came next, but not with regret. Not at all. There was a strange calm inside me, like something that had been building for years had finally settled. It wasn't adrenaline. It wasn't guilt. It was clarity. When Rachel stirred, her fingers gently moved against my skin. She blinked her eyes open slowly, then looked up at me. For a moment, I saw hesitation in her face, like she wasn't sure if she should smile, apologize, speak first. But she didn't need to. Morning, I said quietly. She offered a small smile. Morning. A beat passed. Then she asked, just above a whisper, Are we okay? I think we're more honest than we've ever been. She nodded and pulled the blanket slightly higher over herself. I wasn't planning on that happening. I know. She searched my eyes. And you don't think less of me? I frowned. Rachel, no. I think we've both been walking through our own quiet storms for a long time. Last night didn't create that. It just broke the silence. She looked away, blinking slowly. You're not a boy anymore. I know. Her lips quirked slightly. I kept telling myself you were, but it's been harder and harder to believe it. We lay there for a few more minutes before she sat up and pulled the robe around herself more tightly. She reached for her phone on the nightstand and sighed. My sister just texted. She's on her way. Probably here in an hour. I sat up too. Should I? She looked at me, Just be normal. She doesn't need to know anything. I don't even know what this is yet. I nodded. That's fair. We got dressed separately. I went to the bathroom down the hall, washed my face, splashed cold water on myself. In the mirror, I didn't see guilt or confusion. I just saw me. The same guy but changed. Calmer. Older, maybe. Rachel made coffee. We moved around each other in the kitchen with quiet ease. No tension. No lingering stares. Just something warm beneath the surface that hadn't been there before. When her sister arrived, my mom, everything shifted back into place. We talked, joked, unloaded a few boxes from the garage. Rachel was composed, friendly, but every now and then our eyes would meet across the room, and in those glances there was everything we didn't say aloud. After lunch, I told them I'd be heading back home that evening. My mom offered to drive me, but Rachel quickly said, "No need, I'll take him." And that was that. The drive was quiet at first. Fields and highways rolling by, the radio playing low. Halfway there, Rachel spoke. "I don't know what last night means for us. I don't even know if it should mean anything. I understand." She looked over at me briefly. "But I don't regret it. Neither do I." She took a breath, both hands steady on the wheel. "I needed that moment, and I'm glad it was you. Someone I trust. Someone who saw me as a person, not just a woman unraveling." I reached across the console and gently touched her hand. "You weren't unraveling. You were being real." She gave a tight smile, eyes still on the road. "Same thing sometimes." When we reached my apartment, she parked out front. I unbuckled my seatbelt, but neither of us moved for a few seconds. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For not making me feel like a mistake." I leaned in, just close enough to brush her cheek with a soft kiss. "You never were." Then I stepped out and closed the door. She waited until I was at my front step before she pulled away. That night, I lay in bed and thought of her, not in the way you might think. I thought of how quiet strength sometimes looks like a woman standing in her kitchen in a towel, sipping water and trying to hold herself together. And how sometimes the only thing we really need is to be seen, fully, clearly, and without shame. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew I'd never forget what had already happened. Not just because of what we shared, but because of what we unlocked in each other. Something raw, something brave, something real.
Bye bye.